What's up, guys? We are back and we have Oren, OJ joined in the group as. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How are you?
Good, man. I'm excited for this one. So kick it off. Who are you? How do you explain yourself to the internet?
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm Oren at Oren Meets World on social media. I'm a former CMO and business owner turned content creator, which is an odd thing. Like mid 30s, I decided to start making content on the internet because I'd had a complicated experience with a public business. It's a whole different story. It was like I need to own my destiny a bit more, and then I'm now one of the bigger marketing, branding, content creators on the internet.
Nice. So yeah, I went through all your socials earlier. I've heard really good things. I like your homepage of your website where it's like your
Okay.
full bio story. So I kind of want to dig into that. So like CMO, obviously there's tons of direct response that like lives in ours, but this is like non-direct response, right? This is all
Yeah.
like branded, like big scale brand style marketing. Um, so yeah, let's just chat about that a little bit. So like, what was the experience there, or what was your history there?
Yeah, so I started as a designer and then went into marketing, but I was always working in basically retail adjacent businesses. So I worked in the outdoors industry and selling stuff into Cabela's and things of that nature. Then in consumer electronics, selling into Best Buy, into like Fnac in France, like all across the kind of the globe. That was in consumer drones. And then this last business was at a company called Gel Blaster, a toy business. And we were in Costco, Walmart, Target. So yeah, definitely kind of the opposite of direct response, but like that's how I'd learned a lot on social was being like, oh, you have to be really savvy at this. You know, you can only do so much with you can optimize your Amazon data, you can optimize your meta pipeline, but it's a lot different when you're playing into retail, for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So now we were talking a little bit before this, but you live a little bit in the info coaching land
Yeah.
right now.
So basically, I'm an influencer, you know, kind of primarily. So I get a lot of money through brand deals. I started a coaching program called Cut 30 with my friends Alex Garcia and Colin Lamforce about 18 months ago. And so we have a nice, it's not huge, nothing with the scale the people you talk about. It's like we just cracked like seven figures type thing.
Yeah.
But that's where I thought it was interesting to chat about is coming from outside of that world. You know, I kind of monetize a few different ways. We've kind of cracked this, you know, mid-tier offer based on an organic following. We added like a challenge funnel after watching like a lot of the content I've seen on here. That works really well. And then now looking at going like higher ticket as part of it, it's like kind of a whole new world as someone who came from like very traditional
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah, interesting. So what's the actual like result? Like, what are you selling direct right now?
Yeah, and so right now, so our program called Cut 30 is like a 30-day content training for personal brands and brands, where it's like 30 days in the community, you know, 4 Zoom calls with guests, 4 like office hour sessions, and you follow a roadmap that's like if you've never made content or you make content and you're bad at it on short form, like we will get you good in 30 days. You will publish product, and then we just have tons of success stories. So like
I'm literally on your students page right now while you're
Oh yeah,
saying.
so there's a bunch of you'll have seen a bunch of these. Like Hans Ray is one of the big ones. This woman Tatum Brandt's another one. Like a lot of personal brands in all kinds of different spaces. A lot of brands of all kinds. But it's just like, hey, you want to put up views on the internet? It's like we basically teach you all the things, like the quick one-shot videos, the vlogs, talking head, yapping, you know, like carousels. Like here's your whole toolkit, and then help you make a plan. And so that's worked out really well. And it's one of those where we started at $300. Now it's 1,000, but like that has we run it almost all organic, like not paid. But that's one of those where like we're at the right size. It's like 100 people a cohort, and I don't think we'd go much bigger than that, like conceptually in that format. And so that's why I started thinking higher ticket.
Yeah, interesting. So this is all teaching short form.
Yep, 100%. Just
Yeah.
that's the only A to B, get you good at short form when you walk on the opposite side of 30 days.
I clicked on I was just Googling around. I clicked on it and it's in my bookmarks. Like I've already clicked on this, seen you posted somewhere and saved it into my view later. But no, this is super cool. So then what is main monetization method for a lot of this kind of stuff? So like you said, partnerships, it's kind of out of my world a little bit. Like
Yeah,
I
the
understand.
influencer side, you mean?
Yeah. So like as influencer, right? It's like the machine of it is content generation, views, all that inbound, and there's creation of the traffic that you create. And then monetization models are partnerships, selling your own info, affiliate, like all these things,
Yeah,
right?
so there's basically 4. So like affiliate, obviously people know a lot about TikTok Shop affiliate and stuff like that. That's one of the ones that people generally start with. I've done a little bit of that. Like I was a tester for Erewhon, and for like I've done like a couple like you know specific to my kind of
Yeah.
niche. Then there is brand deals. Brand deals is the biggest or turned into the biggest for me, especially for marketing branding creators. Like it's a lot of B2B SaaS. Budgets are large. It's really hard for people to navigate explaining that to small business owners, like why you should use this complicated piece of attribution software or whatever. So I do 2 of those a week typically. brand deals there on short form. And then it's the same thing on YouTube, placement in every YouTube video, newsletter, placement in every newsletter. So like that's kind of a big business in itself. There is then the info products, which is new. A lot of people kind of avoid it or they soft sell it. They're awkward about it. I'm not, and I'm learning a lot from what you guys are doing about it. We could take it even farther. And then it's just a service pipeline. Obviously, like that's the biggest one. Like I don't do like an agency pipeline really anymore. I did when I was starting out, and it was like more consulting and like marketing agency stuff that I'd ever be able to handle from making these videos.
Yeah, interesting. For the brand partnership one, so is that generally like pay per post for the frequency, or is that like do they attribute with?
Yeah. So basically, so usually it will be like usually it's part of a campaign, right? And so it'll be 1 to 3 posts, and it's kind of telling a story of like X or Y. So I just did Claude, I did Anthropic a while back, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so that's one where like I made a video about how I use that as a marketer. It ran it organic, then they run it paid into like an acquisition funnel there. Like that's kind of a good example of like, here's an exact playbook for how I use this thing explained by someone credible with an audience. Okay, runs organic. They're running that as an ad. And then ideally, if it goes well, it's like a stepping stone. Like, all right, now you're invited to the events. Now you're doing the next campaign, that kind of thing.
Interesting. And then you don't have to give like exacts, obviously, but like range wise, based on whatever following, based on, I mean, is it like 10K? Is it like 2K?
Yeah, I'd say like a good, like we're shooting for, like we try to average 10 a post. I think we might end up like a little less than that. But it's usually bundled though, like because usually how people charge is like I'm big on Instagram, I'm pretty big on TikTok, but it'll be like, hey, core cost of an Instagram post. Then you want TikTok, it's a bundle. Then you can add on any of these other networks, Shorts, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, for another grand or whatever. And you end up building these bundled packs like over time. But yeah, I think if you are small, if you're just getting started, you're sub 100K, you do a lot of like 1 to 2K deals. That's how I kind of started out doing that. My first deal was $1,500 for Timberland. Like it was kind of completely random. And then now it's like, it can get anywhere between 5 and 20 for a video. And I think that's probably like, that's like the height of the business deal stuff. Because once you're bigger, like the only people bigger than that from a presence perspective are like Hormozy and Gary and people that don't do deals. And there's a kind of a huge gap. And then there's like me and people down there.
Yeah. I remember talking to Iman, right, because I told the story like 40 times on here, but I paid for his program to like learn how to do this and then just posted fucking looms instead, like an idiot, instead of like doing all the proper production he teaches and all that. But in there, he was talking about it and he was like, yeah, people are offering like insane numbers, like the 200s, the 500, the whatever to do videos. And he's like, there's no way I'm going to take that. But like once you get to that layer, it's big numbers. It's big numbers.
Yeah. Well, also it's good to be reasonable. Like, and to like, and use things you actually use and like find value on. There's way more demand than there is supply for that, right? Especially for like the credible whitelisting. Like that's the real benefit.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So then other monetization models in that land, you said you barely touch TikTok shop, but like you've done a little. I was at dinner last night and this, someone was like, yeah, my daughter is making like 40 grand a month slanging like creams and has like 10K followers. And we're like, what? Like, that's amazing. Like,
I've done that from the opposite side. So when I was doing CMO retail, we were hiring creators, we were running affiliate. I do it now I still have, I work with like a big, like a private equity firm that has a number of clientele, like I help do creative strategy for, and like they're hammering TikTok shop. That's in the beauty category. But like, yeah, you can without a big following. It's purely based on performance and it works really, really well in a lot of key categories if you make good videos.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, let's zoom back to the CMO thing because this is kind of something we're navigating now. And like, obviously our world is more direct response, but still there's this big brand component. So I feel like Gel was probably the closest of what you listed, where it was kind of like living in that land of like direct to car, very like boom, boom, boom. What is the structure of one of those? Like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like the D2C land. Generally speaking, as a CMO, what is like what a CMO does versus how is that team structured for something like that? That's not, I want a copywriter, a media buyer, and a direct response classic pod.
Yeah. So there's a couple things like you end up with your e-com team, which is very traditional structure, and then you'll basically have like, I look at it like this, like you have your channels and you have like a services org for those channels. So for instance, like your retail marketing team needs assets. They need supports to be able to pull in, to be able to say, hey, I need to run ads on Roundels for Target or for UBM, which is like Ulta Beauty Network, whatever. They need support for assets for that. And then you have my e-commerce channel. They need support. They need content. Retail team needs to be able to show Walmart that, hey, we're able to make, if we need help in Arkansas or we need help with a launch, we're going to generate this many eyeballs. And then basically you have your design and your content teams that like service that. And then a product marketing layer that's working on, USPs and like all the actual, like, what are we doing to sell this product correctly?
Interesting. So when there's like those localized launches like that, I was on with Shackelford, and he was talking about how like, oh, we're launching these new locations and we're going to hammer it, and we do it different than anyone, where we can like, sell out the store basically.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that was like as common of a practice. Like you even just said, like if we're launching a new location or in Arkansas, like how do you determine who holds the weight of that, or like
Yeah. And
the
so I
bear?
think it's one of those where you will have basically like you have your toolkit, right? You're like, you have your paid toolkit, you have your influencer toolkit, you have your like traditional advertising toolkit. And it's like, what's going to be effective? What's going to work here? And you kind of need to strategize that. And that's really where like a head of growth all the way up to like, CMO and a smaller org will actually just be helping make that plan and helping people introduce it. But for instance, like when we were doing a lot of that for retail, we used a lot of like smaller influence and NIL. NIL, like the athletes, where we could like basically bring people popular in a college in an area to talk about our product or use it on short form content, and then boost it specifically to that. My boost, like not like run a boost ad, but run it through Ads Manager,
Yeah.
like to that area, and then run people to the landing pages of a Costco or a Target or a Variable Here Now, send influencers into store. There's like a lot of toolkits there, but yeah, it's like the head of growth or CMO is like making the strategy tactically.
Interesting. Dude, this is so out of my world and realm of like understanding anything that ecom, D2C, like we're starting to talk about that. But again, even then is going to be direct response or to current customer base, like nothing even close to retail. So it's always interesting to learn. So info coaching, let's just workshop this live. So your current setup, you said organic basically pushes to, you said direct to cart, and you said it was mid ticket up to, up to 1,000 right now. And that's direct to cart, right? Just someone full purchase, 1K.
Yeah, just full purchase. And we do a challenge funnel. So we run a 3-day challenge free. I know I've heard people talk on this channel about, hey, like running those as paid.
Paid only, yeah.
But at this offer, that level of offer, if it was a higher ticket, maybe it's more qualifying. But we will run up a couple thousand people inside the 3-day. We'll get some people some quick results. Like people will see a win or someone else gets, or they'll get their own first win and be like, oh, I should do the 30-day. And then so we'll basically run that challenge quarterly, roughly, and then be able to fill out 2 or so programs per one of those, plus our organic followings.
Yeah. Interesting. And then what's the fulfillment look like for the 30 days?
Yeah. So basically we have 2 Zooms a week and office hours, and which is like answer your questions, whatever. And then one with like a guest that's like formatted teaching. Kajabi runs the back end. So there's all these lessons and modules like by week of, the first week you learn how to do videos without a face, or you learn how to do videos without talking. Then you learn how to talk just you in front of a camera. Then you learn carousels like 1-to-1. So it's us 3 in the Slack. We have 2 helpers who are graduates from the program. We feedback every video that's in there. And so really it's that. It's like curriculum, live calls, and then feedback in Slack. And that's the program.
Dude, that is so lean and so nice. So nice. And yeah, the results page is cool. I've just scrolled through the whole thing and I recognize multiple people on here. So that's cool. So then what are you looking at trying to do with the high ticket then?
Yeah. And so I'm looking at, so I have this big YouTube audience, like it's not huge, but in my niche. So I have about 80K on YouTube that I've built up that I haven't really like hit with anything monetization yet. And I also have this kind of demand I've been seeing where people are always hitting me up asking for basically creative directors, creative strategists, heads of growth to help with ad and organic strategy. So I'm actually pretty far through it, like launching a higher ticket to be like, hey, you don't want to create content. You want to create the strategy for content. Like, how do you learn how to do that? And so I'm looking at a similar structured program, just longer, like basically not cutting you off after 30 days or anything like that, of being like, learn how to think strategically about this and do it for other people versus do it for yourself.
Interesting. Okay. And what do you mean by like the strategy? So
Yeah. So right now, if you want someone to blow up your business on organic, and they were like, and you're like, we need to go have someone who's going to be able to script, be able to say, how do we test? What are the pillars we're going to like introduce in our content? What content types do we do? Where do we get UGC? Someone could just come in and do that. And then also the same person that could say, hey, we need to triple the amount of stuff happening in our ad account. Where do we begin? What do we hire? What does it cost? What are the angles? How do I hook it? How do I brief it? I'm basically looking to train people to do that.
Interesting. And you have an idea what you want on price? Because yeah, like that's the thing. It's like all these people are coming in, so it's like maybe that's already good, and then you just don't have anything else to offer them. And like
yeah, exactly. Well, I just have also people that like, if you don't want to be a creator, but you want to be better at marketing, or you want to fill a job, or you want your team to be better. This actually came about because I had a lot of agencies who I would do contract stuff with who would be like, hey, can you just teach our team your process? And I was like, oh, that's actually an interesting idea. I could bundle that and be like, hey, I'll do a 20-person training inside this. So I already have like an enterprise sales pipeline. But yeah, since I was looking at doing webinar funnel, pre-call funnel, I was going to price it close to like $3,500.
Yeah. Interesting. And then what happens after day 30? Is it like a forever access to the community, or are they kicked?
Yeah, exactly. So on cut 30 on day 30, they have access to the coursework, but basically the community's gone and they can rerun anytime they want on a future cohort for like a steep discount. It's like $300. And so we get lots of reruns. People will basically say, oh, where I want to refresh or I want to have community support, they'll rerun it. And that's great. And so yeah, that's been interesting. I'm curious your thoughts on price points. Like I basically got that price point by watching Jeremy's YouTube about webinar funnels and being like, cool, I was going to go 5K, but that's probably too much to hit without a closer. And I'll close some for now, but I don't want to hire sales until I validate the offer. I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I've heard all over. So like us in personal experience, all I can say is that we've never run anything that was over $500 direct to cart. And I know the industry normal is like 2K. But there's edge case of guys I know that send 10K pay links and like rip it in DM. But again, it's like organic, it's consumption. They're in chat, which is like just a, text version of a sales call. And like they're so pre-sold already, they're just sending them a link. But if there is any type of sales process that is beyond generally what you're going to be able to get from just like a webinar style, most people I've seen anything over 2, 4, in that range is on the phone. I love the phone though. I'm a huge fan, huge, because you can, I say this on here all the time, but it's like 1, you can change the price. 2, you can split it in any direction you want. 3, you can change the entire offer. It's like if somebody comes in, you're talking to them, you have the most qualified person in the world for this other thing that doesn't really exist, or like some business partner later, something. And they come into here and they like hit this webinar funnel and they're like, oh, I don't want to buy the thing. You have no idea. Versus they're on the phone and you're like, oh, wow, like they could have 4 extra coaching calls, or what this person really needs to do is like work for me, or, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many more options, like paths that you can do once you get them on the phone. But having a sales team is like by far the biggest headache, because it's usually the biggest head count once you scale.
And I look at it like I want to validate the offer I love to yap, and I'm live all the time, and I do these webinars and these office hours all the time. So like webinar is just a very natural vehicle for me to be able to validate anything, and I like enjoy doing them. And so that was like an easy one. But then also I just don't want to launch a sales funnel or call funnel until like the offer is like really validated and I can really walk through that script and those sales points from doing it myself. But I think that's definitely the upside. Luckily I've managed in some of these teams prior. I like know who our good inside salespeople were. So I'll probably recruit 1 or 2 of those. But I'm curious. Yeah, I haven't ever dealt with scale on an offer, right? Like, or a call offer. Like, how do you even think about that in terms of like hiring out your sales team or the structure of that?
Yeah, we'll zoom to the webinar part, and it's like I had Jason Fladlin on here. Like he is the goat of goat, and all of the top guys use him. And now it's kind of becoming more known that he's the guy behind it. But he's got a book, One to Many. And then Will, who is on here, he only ran webinars that were live, now auto, but he ran them live for like 5 years and just crushed with them, all using his frameworks. Hormozy, he was the one who just did Iman's launch that did 10 million in profit in like 5 days. And so Jason is the one who's like, either live pitches with them, just doing with Onic, like he's everywhere. But that for webinars. And then to my understanding, there was a Hormozy email that went out that he does that like Mosey Minute thing. And I saw him post about it, but it was basically like, if your live call close rate is 20%, it's a sales issue. It's 30%, it's still kind of a sales issue. If it's like 40%, it's like your price maybe can go up. It's 50%, your price definitely needs to go up. Like that idea. Same thing with webinars, right? It's like if it's a different percent, but if it's like, X percentage of take rate, you can go higher and just start to like mess with it, or you need different pay plan options or financing. I like webinars. I love the idea of a webinar. I just think it's harder to hit. I think you need to be a better marketer. I think you need better direct response skill in order to make it convert, versus a phone call is just so much room for error. And with phone calls though, depending on the slot size or like how warm like yours coming from organic almost exclusively is like, phone calls are not that big of a deal because you're going to have 80-90% show rate. So like the gaps across their schedule aren't that big of a deal. It's a really high close rate as well, because like they're already pre-framed and like have a lot of consumption. So it's almost like still easier. It's easier on both fronts. It's easier on webinar, it's easier on call. But scaling a sales team, depending on how big you want to get it, but I mean, I don't know who you have for like ops or how much of the ops you do, but having a couple sales reps is like not a big deal.
Yeah.
Having
when we've got an ops team, like I have like support staff that run everything, and so that doesn't seem too hard to get.
But having like one person that like, sales reps are kickoff, they have a daily meeting, they have dashboards, they're incentivized in XYZ way. They need, one-to-ones, they need call reviews, training, like all that at scale. And so when you start to have like 5 of them or like 12 of them or 15 of them, there's a dedicated person that its only job is to manage and like lead that team.
Yeah, it's funny. Even the company I was at, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the call, but I was at like this public company where we basically got bought by a public company on like OTCQX, like small
Yeah.
scale, and I had run the sales team at this org that got acquired there. That was like, man, like 10 people, but it was basically outside sales. Like they were all like calling on stores, like
Yeah.
running, and and that was just a nightmare, honestly. Like it was just constant tracking, accountability, like photos, the whole thing. So yeah, I would definitely whoever could. That was not my personality type. I just ended up there.
Yeah. It's it becomes a data game too. That's very important. That like if you don't know, it's very difficult if you have messy data to know like who's good against who or like what your true numbers are. And then when you start to run paid and you don't have sales numbers, you like can't do math here and math here. Like they don't combine. So you can't make decisions. So like if you don't have clean data, that's why like all these guys set up on Close or HubSpot or Pipedrive or whatever, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, I mean, again, I love sales teams. And then as long as you can manage them and you have good people and it's a good offer and you have organic, so it's like makes it so much easier for any sales rep.
The power of this organic is that's always been the craziest to me as someone who just like worked in marketing is like I'm just shocked every day, and it's like intellectual organic. That's how I talk about it with the management agency I'm on as an influencer has another like a big beauty creator duo who's like also like intellectual business content. It's not dumb, right? It's like you're not slowing down the speed, you're not whatever, like you're giving people real tactics and real insight. And there's kind of like so little of that, and you get so much attention for it. I'm just like continually shocked every day by like how many views like can get put up in this on YouTube and on short form.
Yeah, the like feeling like someone was talking about the other day, but it's called like fame brain or whatever it's called, where like you know so much about someone before you meet them. Like I've already consumed like a bunch of your stuff, so like I have context in different ways, or like when I talk to anybody I talk to almost on here, like I've already seen a majority of their stuff. But the personality brand side of it, where they're like the amount of times I've bought something, and it sounds just like obvious, but like the amount of times I've bought something because someone's like, oh yeah, this cool thing, or like if I'm going between five things, I'm like, oh, I've seen that one because someone talked about it and I just instant buy it, it's like night and day.
And it's interesting to me. I just feel like there's so many. I'm just surprised there aren't more business people really ripping on like short form content or even really ripping on YouTube. And also because like these principles that we all know, like funnels, et cetera, like apply to content in the same way. Direct response, scripting, like all that stuff. And so it's been interesting to me to kind of I still feel like there's a massive gap where there's more personalities and there's more room to like really win organically.
Yeah, well, teaching. Okay, so this is a good point then. So, what is your view on short versus long form?
Short is the best way to make money. If you are like, hey, my goal as a creator is I want to build a pipeline for my services business, or I want to like get brand deals, and I want to like or grow my like personal brand for like short form video is incredible. It moves faster, you validate it quicker, you can have bigger success, you can probably make more like short term money. But then the affinity with the YouTube audience is just much different. And I went to YouTube like later, and I've also noticed my audience on YouTube is way younger than my audience on Instagram for
Really?
whatever reason. And that's just one where like they just know way more, they consume way more, they're way more primed. For everything, they care way more. It's less like almost transient, but it's just a much slower monetization model, at least how I've seen it.
Yeah, it's super interesting because it's with the high ticket stuff generally, you almost you like barely hear about short form
Yeah.
because you want them to have so much consumption, the trust, the relationship, or what they believe to be relationship, right? Like context, all of that stuff you want through long form. So it's like by the time they get out, that's why Jeremy's always like, oh, you want like he's like they could be monkeys, they're just cashiers, right? Like at that point, it's just Jeremy things, but like you kind of want that. And when you can do that through long form, we haven't found that through short form. You almost need to like send your short form to something that then force consumption. So that's why we always talk about VSL opt-in funnels where they have to watch, or like in your case, like a webinar where they like forced to watch this thing and consume here's the common problems, here's how we've solved them, like here's the understanding, here's the objection blocks before they've happened, like all that stuff. Because if not, and they go from a short form piece where they've consumed you for 4 seconds and then go to your thing, and it's not some low ticket direct to cart or something, then that's like an instant problem solved. Like they're just not aware enough.
Well, that's why. So I use ManyChat a lot. So basically, that's like the
Oh, really?
comment
Okay.
blank to do blank. And so I'm always looking at it like there's two ways to think about content funnels, right? There's a content funnel like on your own individual social media. So like I have a funnel for Instagram, but then there's also like the funnel overall of getting people to whatever to your VSL or wherever you want to go. And this idea, like I will do like a way more viral short form piece about my long form piece. So say I have a big long form video about Stussy's art direction and like brand strategy of Stussy. I can do like a viral short piece on that basically is comment to get the full length. I can get hundreds to thousands of people to then go to the longer thing. like through the ManyChat funnel, and then or go to the newsletter, even better, like the newsletter breakdown, and then they're kind of in the sales. And I just think like it's a really effective tool to basically like immediately filter out the unserious user to the serious user and like have them act. I think you can do really well on short form for a pipeline of people that like kind of aren't consuming long form primarily. They're only consuming it because like you gave them this option.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Same idea. It's just like gating it almost. So instead of you're not sending them from short form to a high ticket, you're sending them from short form to the next thing, which would be long form, to the next thing, which would be, opt or whatever. And just, yeah, that's super interesting. What do
When
you
people
do?
share short form a lot, like services
Yeah.
people, that's what I've noticed. Like, so I get all these inquiries for like, help me with my agency, help me with my brand, help me with ads, help me with creative strategy. And it's all because like there's a whole generation of like millennial and like young Gen X, like CEOs, like business owners, whatever, who are scrolling Instagram casually, who get served business content, who then just Slack videos to their team like all day. They'll be like, why aren't we doing this? And so
Yeah.
if you're making content about X, and that's what I've noticed like for the like service pipeline, which is adjacent, but obviously a little different from just like high ticket info. It's like, it's incredible. I think there's like no better lead source than like that content on Instagram.
And what kind of content do you usually see that they're sharing? Like the info or like education style?
Yeah, like education style. So like, and there's people hear education style and they think it's like, here's how to do SEO for your, but education style on short form is like you have to like hack attention, right? So like if I'm doing a short form video about like a strategy or whatever, I'm gonna be like, here was Tarte's strategy, or like some big famous brands, like here's exactly what they did. And then that's for the kind of thing where they'll be like, that gets way more views because people know what it is, but then it has an action plan where it's like, here's the 5-step thing your brand could do. Like that, like type of response content, like just does really well, and also stops that type of consumer because they're like, I want to be like this brand, or I see this thing. Oh, here's this playbook. Oh, this person's saying it's smart. My team could execute this, and like all that can happen in their brain, like in the length of watching a 60-second video.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Because we do that. We have like a ops company channel on Instagram, and I'll just fire off like an ad I see, because now I like get served ads that are kind of in our demo, which is funny because I'm nowhere near our demo, but is what it is. But I'll fire these off, and then yesterday we're like, let's do a bunch of stuff just like this one. And instead of he's selling a direct thing, it's not even a service, but those case studies. So I sent a lot of ads, a lot of case study videos that are like a service based business. It's like we took this from this to this, and we just try. Generally speaking, we try and just hack it. Or we get CRO ones right now, and we're like talking all this stuff around CRO. So we do that a ton, which is interesting. And then the other piece is that a lot of the initial people that reached out to me that were like the business owners that were doing 2 million a month, 5 million a month in info, like that they found me somehow. It was someone on their team. They were sharing like my videos in their Slack on the team. Exactly. And I was like, oh, got it. Okay. So like I landed in their inbox or like their recommended feed, and then it got its way up, which is a cool another direction. So
because the algorithms are amazing like that. Someone clicks that one video from the feed, and you got them,
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't push them anywhere, which is my other, I almost want to, I got sponsorship requests at like 400 subscribers that people were like, oh, like software style. And it was sad. It was like, $300 to post this and like give a review and this whole thing. And I was like, listen, like if I like the thing, one, I'm already going to talk about it. Like, all right, like I don't care. And then two, like it's almost insulting. Like I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, I think I look at it now, even now, like YouTube is, our YouTube placements are like, I got 80K. I'm in that niche. They're like, they hover around like 5K, like sometimes it'll be a little bit higher, but it's not like a huge amount. Like cover, it's like, okay, that's production money, but like it very much isn't worth it versus again, selling any level. That's why I was looking at the info where I'm like, cool. It's like, okay, 16, 20K a month from this, like what is so much less than any level of like good high ticket program.
Yeah. The high ticket thing is interesting because it's like either a lot of the time the ladder goes either the next thing they're going to need or like an easier, quicker, done for you version of the same result. Right. So like in the cut 30 example, like if you could do it for them, right? Could you charge 30 grand instead of $1,000? Like in that, let's just say, or is it like once you have your 30 and you start to do this, it's like, oh, but you don't now have monetization, or you don't have the long form piece that then you want to send that to. And it's like, that's the OG way of doing this, which was always like, how do you get clients is what everyone taught. And then it was like, oh, you had all these clients, but like now you need to productize your service. And then once you productize your service, like how do you become the absolute best and actually build a real business on an offer? That was like the classic ascension rung. And
we have our cut 30 offer is like 3 of us are creators. And we all have separate businesses and we run this thing together. And so then it's like, cool, let's add the mastermind layer. And it's like, he's traveling this month. I'm traveling those 2 weeks. Like there's just it's one of those where like some of those offers, cause I think the very natural thing to do would just be like, we call them cut 30 legends, but like all the people that are popping from there, it's like, all right, let's make the mastermind to like make those people even more popping. But then also just look at audiences. Like I look at being on all these different networks. Like I'm big on Substack, I'm big on YouTube, big on TikTok, but they all want different things. Like some of it can combine, but then it's like, where are you under monetized? That's why I really looked at YouTube, where I'm like, ads is not the monetization model on YouTube, like that versus, pointing them somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, the challenge funnel thing, I mean, it makes sense that it would crush for you guys. And then the other one is like depending on like group funnels, I have seen rip. And I don't know
Oh,
if
so what
you
do you mean by that?
so you can send them when you have so much organic, it's like what are you going to do with the clicks, right? And it's like how do you move them exactly what you said from short to long, from long to what, right? So right now, if your direct way is put them into a challenge, so you have whatever 5,000 free people in this challenge for 3 days and however many few hundred or whatever pop out. The other model is like having those people either a challenge funnel and or just dedicated to like a free community that is just like value posts and value access or like even free course or like teaser stuff, and then they get all this stuff here. And then a lot of the time what people do is take them from free group to paid group and just build a massive MRR engine. So instead of having like the cohort style or whatever, you just have a couple more on fulfillment so that it's more evergreen, so it can happen all the time, not just like in these batches. And then you have that, so MRR game becomes insane. And then whether you still sell the launch thing or it truly is just MRR, because then the back end offer is cool. Your 30 is done. The continuation, like you said, right now they have to come back in for this 90% discount or whatever it is, or 70% discount. And it's like they come in for that. Or do they just have this continuity thing where they just want to continue to be access to the community, which is like this, a function of this mastermind. And then the true ones rung up to the actual community, which is like the mastermind. So you just like carry the cash longer, like the LTV just becomes more, you have more opportunities for them to stay and pay than squeezing it into these little batches.
And it's funny, like I obviously hearing you explain it concisely makes perfect sense. And I like at this point now, most of my friends are other big influencers. I convinced most of my friends to start making content. A lot of them got big, and then I also made friends with most people in my niche. But it's just funny how little knowledge there is. Basically, they get these like the growth operator kids like in their DMs being like, "Let me build you a whatever." But that's like the extent of what this
Yeah.
whole new class of like business influence like understands about info and like funnels and stuff whatsoever. And I'm curious like how that gap is ever going to get bridged, because I think this is like crucial entertainment a lot of these people could use to monetize, crucial information. And it's like if you're not on the corner of Twitter and YouTube that's like discovered what you're doing, it's like I don't think they ever going to come across it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a guy on that does faceless YouTube the other day, and he was talking about how just like everyone makes this, he's like, oh, it's whatever, it was $5. It's like $5 RPMs, I think. And they're like growing these big things. And he's like, yes, yeah, so the target a lot of the time is whatever the math, but like 2 million to make 10K, I think 2 million views a month. And I was like, yeah, like what if they're niche? Because this whole thing was like you have these niche channels. And I was like, yeah, like what else? What do they sell? Like what are the monetization models? And he was like, oh, that's it. And I'm like, bro, like the link placements, like CTA, like nothing. And he's like, yo, nothing. I'm like,
I would have thought like the dark, like the gray web affiliate guys would have just be all over this.
all over this. And they would have like massive email lists, and then you could chill the email list unlimited times. Like, you know, it's a survival niche, and you've got the flashlight, and you've got the ClickBank offer, and you got the, like, you could just, and he gave an example. He's like, yeah, someone sold a product in there that was like 27 or 47 or something dollars, and he was making like 15K from AdSense, and he made 40 G's in the first month with the product in the description.
I think it's just,
and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why is, yeah, it's that whole thing. I mean, that's supposedly, I think
there's a cultural disconnect. Like there has to be, right? Like I feel like there's a disconnect between like trad info people and then like new influencer, and also trad info and like new money. Like, okay, everyone's on WAP. It's like, oh, you're running a WAP, you're clipping, you're doing faceless. They just have no, because I think probably because the only YouTubes they consume are like people flexing supercars, but like I just don't know how, like, where that crossover is going to hit, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what Hormozy's new book is, the money model thing. Like I think that's what the idea behind it is. Like it makes so much sense, where it's like if you have I don't know, whatever.
But like, my 14th webinar from this, yeah
exactly. But like seriously, it's like the idea of, okay, you have all this traffic, and right now it's like the only way you monetize is brand partnership, let's say, as an influencer. And it's like the second you could add an info product, and then the info product thing, info plus coaching, can go like 8 layers deep on, you can make, you know, $37 a month for a bunch of them. Like all the fitness guys, it's a great example. All the fitness guys have the monthly app, and it is like the lowest, because it's like fulfillment cost, time, resources versus like dollar throughput. And those guys will get 2,000, 6,000, 100,000 people paying $27 to $99 a month on this app that they basically built once and have like a little bit of support on. And then the next ascension rung is like calls, that if they want to do a call with everyone in the community is like very common model. But it's like I think it was Rob who was on here. He's like, everyone has like a clothing, a supplement, so like an apparel, a supplement, and then like their own app. Those are like the three
Yeah.
core ones that everyone has. And they print, but like there's so many more models. Like I was saying how I like buy when I follow someone, like I followed Nick Bear for forever.
Yeah.
And I literally only buy his supplements for the last like 4 years, just basically solely because of that.
It's interesting. Also, it's so easy to set that. You can basically like there's just catalogs of activewear you can just like
Yeah.
purchase and put your logo on. You can go to Supplefill and you can have whatever white labeled like immediately. I think like they've made that easy. But yeah, I just don't know where people are going to get that education because it's like it seems like it's like polar. It's like you do this super easy thing to make your 10K a month, or you do these like super complex like offers with 45 acronyms that like you have. There's no like easy entry point into. There's probably some alpha there.
Yeah. There's it used to be ovens. He was like the core of it. I asked on Exia like a month ago and I didn't get a clear answer, like who the current like category king is for teaching people who are truly like, right, like everyone says coaches, consultants, info owner, whatever, but like what you really need, like what you're saying is like target influencers, like, hey, influencers, here's how you like monetize actually in different ways through info coaching or through these different monetization models. But I don't know, because the growth operator thing, I've been dancing on this on like what do I do within this space now that like I have access to XYZ. And growth operating to me is for people who have like nothing to and like need all the implementation and the deployment, and these like kids frankly like know how to do it. They know how to do launches, they know how to like publish like offers, publish people, and they know how to like build them and do that part, but then it doesn't generally like continuously run. Like they usually do a big launch, they'll do $1 million, 500K, $3 million or whatever, and then the next month it does like 10% of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then they just wait 6 months and
Yeah,
do
because they
like a
just
different. Yeah.
juiced the entire audience that this person had, and then like instead of doing some evergreen version or have some operation or a paid strategy that offers consistency, like some of the or a content structure that does, um, I don't know. I don't know who serves that market in like the best way
Yeah,
that can.
I've seen like the female market. Like there's like on Instagram, there's a woman, Art of Influence. Like she's an influencer, and then she has a separate account where it's like she's like, hey, if you're female creators and you want to monetize, here's your program. Here's how you use Kajabi. Here's how you sell like a worksheet. Here's how you build a paid community. And I've seen that pretty well. But I feel like there's this kind of disconnect between like the new era of like male Instagram influencer and then not wanting to be associated with like the Sam Ovens world,
Mhm.
even though obviously that will just make you actual money.
Yeah.
And I think there's like some way that has to get bridged where it's like, it gets rebranded. The way we rebranded chatbots to AI agents, someone needs to rebrand like info
Yeah.
products to something more accessible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna like Iman obviously does his thing, but his is like the beginner market, and it's like how they can right now. I think his current one is like how to create digital products and like use AI and have them faceless and like mass create like these things in that way instead of like being the personal brand who sells it. But I don't know.
It's not a good offer. I look at a lot like I pay attention to the guru offers. I've just gone back to what their offers were, just being like, all right, what's interesting? And it's like, there was that one. I think it was Welch. One of these guys had like launching an AI product from like where I was like, this is not a good offer. Like I
Yeah.
just don't like there. I feel like there's a lot of these things, even like what we just mentioned. Like, hey, getting actual like it's similar to the growth operator model, but like making it not called that. Like make it called something influencers can relate to it. Of like we're gonna help you monetize your community. There's like a lot of these big openings in here, and it's not like what the gurus are selling.
Yeah, there's gonna be someone. I know one kid that just immediately pops into my mind. But there's gonna be someone who watches this that is a growth operator because a lot of them watch this, and like all you have to do is instead of being like, "Hey, coaches, consultants, and whoever," it's like directly to influencers. Do you only monetize with brand partnerships or this or this? Like, I can teach you the way. And yeah, because Josh Gavin is another one that pops into my mind. He's amazing at that. He has an entire like group around offer publishing. He's published so many of them, and he's like really good at low ticket offers. And the cool thing with the low ticket offers, when you build them right, are like the ascension rung. So the same
Yeah.
thing, same idea of free to low ticket MRR. A lot of these guys will have onboarding calls or like group onboarding to then sell this next thing. So you have like three tranches, like from the rip. It's like you have free community. It's just like deeper. You own the audience a little bit more than a following, and then low ticket MRR engine. Cool. I get paid to basically have this value in here. And then the real thing is what they all go to next, which is your 1K or your 5K or your 20K thing. But the mastermind sounds sick because for you guys, you're all so similar. That's the beauty of masterminds. If you can get like actually similar people who have like the same goal, who have the same like current struggles, who have like different people have overcome different parts of it, different people are different sizes, but like they can relate different because a smaller guy might have a better monetization model than a bigger guy. So it's not just like, you don't, 5 million people don't only hang out with 5 million people in following land. Like that's a cool, I don't know what exists. I'm so out of that world, but does anything
Yeah, I
exist
mean,
there?
not a bunch. What also, but the other nice part about that is I was thinking about because I do like brand workshops, like I'll go to the brand or whatever, and I did one recently where they were like, "Hey, can we rent a cool location we can make content at the same time? Let's like make content live." And we got this like really interesting place, and I was like, "Shit!" For a mastermind, same thing with creators. It's like, "Hey, you get the Invisible House in Joshua Tree, or you get like one of these like crazy spots," and they're like, "Oh." I'm going to pay for this thing. I'm going to get this value. I'm going to be able to make a couple banger videos while I'm there. Like, it's just so the justification of price, like for that, like everyone's always just looking for more good content. Yeah, so I definitely think there's something good there, and I don't think that there is a ton for it because again, influencers are only going to respect like other people that have that audience, and then you're all always like caught up in your mind. I might take that down. We'll see.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's a interesting one too, because you can, like, I know Eddie Malouf he owns Bad Marketing, and they have that big agency, but a lot of his parties they like fully fund. So which a party is in itself a version of that, right? It's just a bunch of cool people hanging out talking about thing. There's not like an agenda, but it's like, basically. But they get those funded by sponsors a lot of the time. So like WAP
Yeah.
comes in and finances those, or sponsors them. That's what Iman did on a portion of his, because once you get up to that rung, but you guys could even do that with people who do your brand partnerships, people who
Yeah.
want to make content of the fact that there's
Because
a bunch
they
of
all want more opportunities to get in front of that right audience, right? And so yeah,
yeah,
there's I mean, look, I even look at like who's making like the trade show circuit. Like there's not anything good for like there's like plenty, there's good D2C stuff, there's good whatever. There's not a lot for like, hey, you're an actual influencer. Like there was like VidCon, people that connect to fans or industry, but it's like, hey, no, you make 7 figures off brand deals. Like where do you go? Like
yeah.
that's very limited, if anything.
What do the economics look like, or like how does it make sense for these brand retreats? Like you see they launch something and like, or like a fitness thing, for
Oh, the brand
example.
trips.
Yeah, brand
Oh
trips.
yeah,
Like what is that?
brand trips is amazing. I'm a huge advocacy of this. So take a look at this. Like if I am so let's look at Tarte. Tarte's a great example. I don't know if you know Tarte Cosmetics, but they do these big brand trips. They're called Tarte Island. And so they're a big cosmetics company. They're on TikTok, and they'll basically say, hey, we're going to invite 12 influencers to Bora Bora or wherever, and for this brand trip. And then you will get the influencers are making all this content. I got invited. Here's what the invite looked like. Here's what I'm wearing. Here's what the looks are going to be. I'm on the PJ to the island. And then they get to the island, and it's a reality show, right? They're mad at each other. They're doing challenges. They're doing games. So they get so much content out of it. But then they get the content on their feed, the content from the influencers. Then they get this whole cottage economy of people that are, this person didn't get brought. There wasn't enough DEI representation. How could they get Julie after what you said about Trump? And then it's like, it'll just blow up into this like much bigger, I guess like the compounding effects of that. Because what we talked about before, someone shares the Slack link, you get seen more. TikTok knows. You watch one thing from Tarte Island or one of your favorite influencers, now you're in Tarte Island TikTok.
Yeah.
And so I think the ripple effects of that from an EMV value, the earned media value, is just massive. And so what's nice about it, if you're a physical brand, you're selling on TikTok Shop, you get to realize that value also in a sales spike if any of the products are tagged through affiliate. But I just think in general, there's very few opportunities where you can create branded content that has the opportunity to have a wide ripple effect. And so the brand trip takes advantage of the fact the algorithm understands all the associated webs. This person collaborated with this person. They're on this island. They're doing whatever, and really will pump it. And so I think like that's why those are so effective. And I think it's like going nowhere. And the more obnoxious it is, and the more challenges, the more competitions, the more collaboration, the crazier the invites, like the better it goes.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Whenever I hear these things, like TikTok Shop was a great example of one of like, everyone always wants, the grass is always greener. And we're like, oh, how do we do e-com? Like they have all these cool things and things you don't get in info coaching, but then we have all these crazy things like, margin, that we have in info coaching that doesn't exist in e-com and physical products and all that. But like, man, like I was talking about this the other day, the TikTok Shop, when it allows for info instead of only having physical, everyone was like, oh, it's just going to get ruined, right? Because everyone could just slang and bang anything on there. But if you could like leverage those pieces, we were talking about how to do that and like, oh, could you do it through where you get the digital product, but you also have some like small physical components. So you have like a water bottle or like a whatever, but it comes with this digital access to whatever. But same thing with those events, like how you could do that where you got, I mean, it makes sense for what you're saying, how to do it, but like, in our target demo, like.
But even the demo, but like I know, like wasn't Brez or like one of the, like the new age kids was at one of Jeremy's masterminds or something.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah.
if you did, you could go if you had all the gurus, if it's like the guru challenge, like offsite, where it's like, all right, like how expensive is your car? Like the map, like, and just like the very, like who's going to spend the most at X. I think even if like, if you made all the, like you had all the info guys and it was like the info guys go do the NFL combine And it's like the content would just go bananas. I just think people
Yeah.
just need to get more creative.
That is so true. Jeremy, everyone tag Jeremy Haynes in this right now. I don't know where we're at.
Jeremy,
We're at 45 minutes.
info
Everyone
scaling
tag
NFL
45
combine. Let's go.
and Jeremy Haynes and tag him the shit out of this because he needs to do this for his Q4. But no, he's the one who has like the most audience like that. We talked a little bit before this, but right now, Info Coaching Land is Cole Gordon. Iman has his, Jeremy has his. I heard Nick Fisher, I think he said on there, he's talking about doing one. I think those are like the core four. And each one serves a bit of a different market within info coaching. So Jeremy's is like growth operators, like $1 million months, hammer it. Cole's is like people who came through his sales world and like the offer, like true like business owners that then came through there that had like scalable systems and used him for marketing and sales and all this stuff, like true breads. Iman's is all like highly profitable, worldwide talent, worldwide markets, challenge funnel, like launch negative acquisition, like Iman level shit, right? And then Nick's is not launched yet, but I'm in his like group, and his is all about a little bit more like this, where it's like community led growth. So Nick is sharp, and he's behind Sub 2, which is like Pace Morby and like a bunch of those, and they do size, but so much of their stuff is like post purchase. It's all LTV game.
Yes, right. I watched his video. That was that actually made me think a lot about that, because like it's all you think about as an influencer, right? It's like how long can I keep these people engaged in what I'm doing without overwhelming them? But then you start to be like, oh shit, if that's a B2B person, if that's like, hey, you started as a junior marketer and 7 years down the line you're a head of growth, and then 10 years down the line you're a CMO, and I can keep you on that journey. That's probably the most profitable LTV like that you can get in business. That's really interesting to think about.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, his model of it's like having enough offers and then having, which is like truly just like offering enough value. So those people are like true cult behavior. And then like the tactics behind there, they have SDRs that are like CS reps. So it's like, oh, I only saw that they consume 16% of the cut 30. And I know that if they get to 30% of consumption, then they have a 90% chance of like ascending. And it's like this crazy, like they have all these metrics around customer or client, like once they're in there, and the touch points and who communicates when, and like when activation exists. And then because they have because they then have other offers that they can sell them, which like you don't currently have. And like we still don't have enough right now, where like people want to buy more things, or they already buy something that we don't offer. And we're like, oh, just go to that person, a supplement, a this, or that. And it's like, there's so much land grab. It's just, as long as you can get fulfillment stack. So which is all client, all community, all fulfillment side of the business.
It was interesting. I mean, you had mentioned earlier about like the e-com, D2C doesn't have margins or whatever. Everyone was always asking like, why don't you focus more on the brands or the e-com brands? I'm like, I found the best business models in the world. All this shit is like 80% margin.
Yeah.
Like every time I think about like, I still have like my hands on these brands, and I'm like, it's so painful at all times versus the cash flow. But the reason I brought that up was, the e-commerce customer service thing is really interesting, because I make content about like luxury brands a lot. So I'll end up in these workshops with luxury brands. And I'm like, hey, the customer experience, like the luxury customer experience, like almost what you mentioned, like one-to-one name basis, the way you have a Louis Vuitton rep if you spend real money. And like, that's what any new age brand needs. I completely agree that that's where that's going in info. Because again, someone can basically take your program, rewrite it in Claude, relaunch it, learn it, move through. Like so much of the info is commoditized. It's all community, but then it's like, it really has to be like the top tier, like true friendship. Like, and why wouldn't it be if you like what you're doing and having that and you have the right reps for it? But I think there's going to be like a whole cottage industry of training people to be able to provide service at that level. And then also like, that's going to become a big component of like what separates these successful programs.
Yeah. There's so many lanes you're talking about right now that could be their complete own thing that are like all so valid. I watched a Davey Fogarty video yesterday, and he went and bought like one of the new Range Rovers, and the sales rep like was like, oh yeah, and by the like check the trunk, and he had a Yeti in there that he like got him a Yeti and like filled it with whatever, and he's like, yeah, because you were so excited about the fridge and the cup holder, or in the center console, and he talked about it like 2 other times in the video, and I was like, just in my head I was like, that like loop of just like went the extra mile, did the extra thing, and it was in a video placement, and it had that like, just because of it, I was like, God, that's so interesting. But
I feel like not enough people worked in like the service or hospitality industries anymore. Yeah. Like that was like a fundamental part of growing up, that it's kind of lost, you know?
Yeah, no, 100% lost. It's like not the cool thing to do anymore. Now it's like hide behind the screen, me included, hide behind the screen and just like sell things through people. The one thing I say that I constantly get hung up on in my head is what you can have like exit value, equity value when you go super personal brand heavy. And that's like in info and coaching, that is like the number one thing, right? That's why they say 99.9 can never sell, because they're so personality. Plus they're not real like business operations. There's no consistency. There's no future cash, like all the things. But a big one is that. So like when you have this cult in the back, Like, how can you do that through team that's like actually part of the company versus like through you as the owner and founder or the brand face or the whatever? That has been something we've wrestled with for a while, because it's like, how do you play both games where you sell it and you're not in it tomorrow? What happens to the community?
Well, I think what's interesting, so I've thought a lot about this, and there's, I guess, two really, I think, important concepts. Like one is like the branding concept. So for instance, I had a newsletter. It was like Oren's newsletter, had like 20,000 subs. Great. But then I rebranded it, brought in a partner. And now like we interchange writing. It's not just from me, even though I'm the main funnel for it. It's called Hyper. It's branded. But we've had multiple acquisition offers for it since it rebranded, because people are like, oh, this is just the lead source. And then I can fulfill that lead source. You know, like there's this thing is like worth money. So it's like, okay, pieces of it are monetizable. But the other thing I think is interesting is like influencers are almost interchangeable now. Like I look at
Yeah.
in my group chat, there are like 6 influencers who are a third of my size, who are could run the same program, could run Cut 30 for us, could have a like in the funnel. And if I stepped out, I'd be like, hey, this is the person that you should then give an equity stake to, like inform that. And so I think that like there's so many personal brands now that it's not as much of a worry, as long as like the people you're coming in with can either have one of those. Like if I feel like if we ever sold this program, it would be to someone else who wants to run the same program, who just wants a proven method and not have to do any of the work to like put that together, and they could walk into that. Or someone like who said, hey, cool, we're going to build a pipeline of other influencers to attach on it that you either pay or equity. And so I do think that like just assuming that you're going to have to build other personal brands into it, you're going to be able to do that at a cheaper rate, seems like where that model will be in a few years. Curious what
Yeah.
you think about that.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's like, even setting it up in that way though, where it's like called Cut 30, and then yes, it's yours, and yes, you're like the main driver of it right now, but being able to layer others on until those are proven to the fact that, you know, maybe it takes 2 or 3 additions of people to get the same amount of lead flow, and then you can slow yours down. Like having it so it's like that versus just like your face and your email list and your name is like one thing I think out of that. And then 2 is the leverage you get and the impact to the P&L, let's just say, when you like, if you're running yours, you're 100% owner, and then you bring these people in, versus if you bring them in from the start and you're gonna like, hey, I'm gonna start Cut 30 and I want these 3 business partners. It's like, okay, cool, we're all gonna be 25%, versus you having your thing up that you validated, proved as you, and you own 100% of it. And now it's like, oh, these guys are gonna make $4,000 a month or $7,000 or whatever, or a part of their lead flow only. And like the difference in that, because you prove the model yourself first, is something very interesting that I'm like learning. Because I hear all these people all the time like watch our stuff, they're like, oh, how do we do your thing where there's an expert and like a marketer behind it, operator, all that stuff. And generally speaking, depending on how much experience you have is the big thing. It's like how much experience you have or how far is it along or whatever. It dictates whether the expert brand face is like W2, or are they 10% of the company, are they 50% of the company, all based on like what you've already built or how much experience you have, or like how the likelihood that's going to happen, and like how you can negotiate that relationship,
Yeah,
which is
I think
very
there's a
interesting.
lot of influencers who just aren't operating in info, who don't understand it, wouldn't go through the pain to build it, but would be so stoked to have another like 5-figure monthly revenue flow and push their leads somewhere, that if you did like own a pro or bring people into that level of like, hey, you're getting this percent of sales, you're getting this as a job, but the people are establishing ownership. I think there's going to be a lot of that, because it's almost beneficial. Like we've looked at that. We already have 3 guys like in Cut 30. We've had a lot of people be like, hey, can we join? Can we be the fourth or whatever? And again, we can't scale, or we could, that's a limiting belief, but like we don't want to necessarily scale past this current level. But if we did, that would be 100% be it. We just bring in 8 more gurus who have similar
Yeah.
audiences and be like, cool, this is now like the mega program. And so I think there's going to be M&A around that concept, not necessarily in the space that I'm in, but just in general of like, oh, if you're a talent management company or you're whatever, you're like, why wouldn't we own this? Like, or use like, why wouldn't Gersh want to buy like something like this so we can then plug our people into, so then we can own like this monetization opportunity? I think there's going to be some savvy thought like that as people really wrap their heads around the creator economy in a few years.
Yeah, no, I think, and that's also like acquisition, like who would acquire it, right? Is like people who want a flow, a pipeline of people who are like already have audiences who are primed and looking for offers to push. It's like someone who has offers that can be pushed across. So like any of these networks, any of these like the in-between layers of who already have all these different products or like off market things, like that's a super interesting one. And then another thing that comes to mind when you say that is the like catalog model too, which is different, where instead of everyone's under Cut 30, it's one program, but there's multiple faces, there's multiple faces and there's multiple products.
Yeah.
So mastermind.com,
Yeah, women only, whatever.
yeah,
There's a lot of stuff.
yeah, exactly. Where there's like, that's another interesting model, but I don't know. I've never heard big numbers around those like working yet.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's just so much of this is, I guess, like info is obviously old, but like this super like new influencer based creator stuff is new. And so I think it'll take some time to shake out, but I feel like there's so many opportunities there. There's still, do you follow UFC at all?
A little bit, but no.
Yeah. So, and I'm only saying it because they got bought by, it was on ESPN. Now they got bought by Paramount this week. And, which is like, so now basically UFC will stop being pay-per-view. It will be on CBS and it will be on, like Paramount Plus app. And I bring that up because it basically is like, if you look at how you build like some big audience or how you build content out there, there's all this like ESPN has all this media. They have podcasts, they have clipping, they have all these like different accounts that share highlights. But this new age thing, like Paramount doesn't. And now they have this property that they bought and they're going to need to generate all this attention for it. And you look at like, hey, all of the YouTubers or communities or whatever, like that could then grow some of this like changing nature of entertainment. I just think there's like so many crossovers into like people that are savvy with operational structure or savvy in like building out content that are bigger than just like this level, that are on like, hey, this is like what Hollywood was doing, or this is what like major TV networks are doing. This is what traditional education was doing. Like we're really at the point in time where like all of that is in play.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. I did see that deal that they moved like streaming platform. It was like, what was it, like 7 billion or
Yeah.
something that they.
But they
Yeah,
moved it to a place that has no social media, that has no followers, that has no ability to have a highlight ecosystem, which I thought was really interesting.
that is interesting. So what? So then you think they're going to own that portion of it? So they'll
Well,
just
I
handle
think that they're either going to take an L by not getting that same level of distribution, or someone's going to have to get tasked with building it. And I just think that I use it almost just as a, like, there's going to be 100 more of these examples of like these traditional things or this media that's not consumed in the same way or whatever. And like education being like a key one of like, hey, you can't learn in a marketing degree what happens in real time inside working in Meta Ads Manager or whatever, that like all this is changing at such a big level that people who can then like create these ecosystems online are going to be ultra valuable. And that's basically what most info operators are doing, right? But they're just
Yeah.
doing it for selling this one specific thing versus these big macro level like money blocks that are on the table.
Dude, you have my brain spinning on a lot of these things today. Interesting. I got a hard stop in the right now-ish, but
You're good.
like this was unbelievable. This was super interesting to me to think about. There's gonna be a growth operator kid that is gonna be watching this that is going to 100% shift their entire model to influencers.
Well, I appreciate you having me on and chatting through it. I got a lot of notes I got to go round down and find a bunch of
Yeah,
programs
no,
to
we'll
look
stay
up.
connected. We got to circle back on round two when there's a back end offer. There's some movement there, but yeah, no, there was a lot of nuggets in this. Jeremy, you're gonna get tagged a million times in here, and I hope that you run the info coaching games and you do it massively. He just got a new warehouse too. I don't know where you're located, but he's in Miami and he does those every quarter. And he outgrew the place that was in his massive building, and now he's gonna be doing them at like a big office center with like this crazy big TV and zone. So
Let's go.
it's got to play. All right, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Talk to you.